the notion, I suppose, that you just close the gate and you sow the crop, it's not that straightforward. Sometimes you still need to manage these crops and watch them. Just because, they're organic and you're not applying pesticides doesn't mean you have to give them zero management. In fact, I would argue there's an awful lot of management required when it comes to organic cropping.
It's great to be back with another Environment Edge podcast, and you're very welcome to the show. We've seen a big jump in farmers moving to organic farming in recent times. Martin Bourke, Teagasc Organic Crops Specialist, joins us to discuss.
We are also joined by Tommy Delahunt, farming in Wicklow, to chat about his journey from conventional tillage to organic and how he adapted his farming practices.
I'm Cathal Summers.
And I'm Deirdre Glenn,
your Teagasc Sustainability Advisors. And we're back for another Environment Edge podcast number 103, and here we go.
Tommy and Martin, you're very welcome to the show. Martin, I'm going to start off with you by asking you about these organic crop walks that are propping up all over the country. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on them and kind of what topics you're kind of covering?
Yeah, Deirdre. So look, we're running 8 walks around the country, and they're geographically, I suppose, they're spaced out to try and get to reach as many organic tillage farmers as possible. And we've had 2 already. We were in Cork on Monday night, and then Tipperary the next morning, and there was great attendances as well at both. And I suppose it's just to touch base. I suppose when you go down the route of organic farming, maybe sometimes you're always, especially with organic tillage farming, there's a fear that things can go wrong and so on. And it's nice to have support, advisory support, and the support network of other farmers to bounce things off and ideas off. So the idea of these walks was very much to have interactive walks. I kind of termed them field insights, the series of walks, and to see what's happening out in fields and to hear from other farmers what's happening in their fields and I suppose compare experiences and notes and see, can we offer advice to one another, and if I can impart some of the advice that I'm getting from looking at organic crops in the various parts of the country, to see, can we offer timely advice to other farmers for action they might take. So we're primarily looking at organic oats because that is the biggest crop grown organically in the country. It would represent just over 60% of the organic crops that are grown is oats. So that's a big feature of the crop walks, discussing how you're managing oats vis-a-vis variety chosen, seeding rates, how you're managing the weeds. All these crop agronomy matters are being discussed. And then another large proportion of the organic cropping area in the country now is what we call, that's probably well known as a combi crop or an intercrop. And that is generally a legume being intercropped with a cereal. And there's various combinations of legume and cereal being mixed together. So we're having a look at those on the farms as well, and discussing potentially what are the problems and is there issues out there. For example, pigeon grazing is happening at the moment of the peas in some crops. So we're just, I suppose it's a little bit of advice to pre-warn farmers of the potential things to watch for, because the notion, I suppose, that you just close the gate and you sow the crop, it's not that straightforward. Sometimes you still need to manage these crops and watch them. Just because they're organic and you're not applying pesticides doesn't mean you have to give them zero management. In fact, I would argue there's an awful lot of management required when it comes to organic cropping. So that's kind of a small flavour of what we're looking at. And look at, there's fertility building crops, red clovers, the whole system, we'll call it, the organic system, and rotations is the backbone of a lot of the discussion at the walks.
Are they being well attended?
Yeah, we had, I think
Brilliant.
we had about 45 the other night in Cork and about 40 in Tipperary the next morning. So good numbers and nice numbers so that you can have good interaction.
Brilliant.
So, there, I suppose actually the attendances are even larger than I was envisaging, So
Wow.
That's a good sign. There's an appetite there, for information. But I've noticed that in all organic walks, whether they're crops or livestock based ones, the attendances tend to be very high at organic walks over the last number of years. There's a big interest in it.
There's a big push, I suppose, in that general direction as well from the Department of Ag.
Oh,
they
there
want to,
has.
hasn't there
Yeah.
been? Yeah,
There
yeah.
was like when I started in this job as an organic cropping specialist in July 22, literally about 2 weeks later, the department announced new organic farming scheme payment rates, significantly, enhanced rates compared to where they had been. So generally in the region of, like if you're an organic tillage farmer, €320 a hectare to convert for your lands in conversion, and then 270 a hectare then once it's converted. That's very, very good money. So it can't be ignored. And I suppose at the same time, profitability of the conventional side of the tillage farming in particular is tight at the moment. And so sometimes you do have to just examine your business and to see, is there is there another thing I could be doing to diversify my risk? And so and that actually, that's interesting at the walk so far. I would always look for a show of hands because I like to know who I'm talking to. Am I talking to the converted, or am I talking to potentially people who are looking to maybe examine if organics is for them? And at both walks, there was a considerable interest from conventional tillage farmers. They were there to listen to what we had to say and to see how farmers were getting on.
Tommy, I think Martin's kind of nailed it. I think tillage is quite technical anyway, and if you add in organics onto the top of it, it makes it a little more technical again and difficult because we have to come up with different solutions. So I really welcome you to show because we have lots of questions down the line we're going to ask you. But maybe to start out, will you give us a bit of background about yourself, where you're farming, and what kind of practices you're carrying out?
Yeah, we're farming in East Wicklow. We're originally a conventional farm doing tillage and sheep. And since this man here beside me took on the role of organic advisor, we veered into the organic section 3 years ago. We're full status on part of the farm this year going forward. We have two other blocks of land. One is second year and the other one is first year. So in the intervening 2 years since we've gone in, or 3 years since we've gone in, we've I suppose it's the practices that we hadn't been doing, as in rotation. Um, there's a big emphasis on the rotation to control weeds and to control fertility. Um, it's 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 a push in line with what we're doing and what we want to try and achieve on the farm. Um, it's worked out relatively good for the last 3 years. What surprised me was the rotation with the peas and the beans and the trial plots on the farm, year two, year three, and the way the crops look this year now because of the rotation. So yeah, we've had a good, and then the payments on top of that have encouraged us into it. Like that's, you have to get a return on what you're doing, and it's another aspect or another diversification of the conventional farm over into the organic. And with the two of them can run side by side, we can run our sheep back on the organic side to graze off crops or multi-species or control if we had a weed problem, which we don't just at the minute. But if we envisage that problem down the road, we have an opening for the sheep to come in on the tillage side. So yeah, we've had positive experience. There's trials there for the last 2 years, and they're very interesting because there's lots to be learned by it, and it's going to be interesting going forward. There seems to be a good demand for the product that we're producing at the moment, whether it's the organic oats for Flavins or the feed market.
And you're happy enough with cheap prices at the moment?
Oh, certainly.
Long way it lasts.
Yeah.
The one thing, like and Martin kind of touched on about farmers putting their hands up at groups, and I remember we were talking. We had an organic podcast last year, I think, and there's one question, and Deirdre mentioned the money and the good money. By the sounds of things, Tommy, you had an interest in organics. It's not just the money, I'd say, but it sounds things by the way you're talking.
Oh yeah, oh, certainly. Yeah. Well, look, you do need a good return to keep you sustained or to keep it going. The conventional side has its pressures with either weeds or different aspects of it, and this whole area of the organic played into that because you could diversify and you could use other crops Like it's really a learning curve, but the enthusiasm within the sector at the moment is very good, and there's a great want for information, and there's a great shared experience of the whole thing. So, like the enthusiasm of this man beside me here is unbelievable. Like, so that brings you on and gives you hope in the sector going forward. Now, as to the prices, it's like who knows where that goes. But like definitely the subsidization or the payment on top is encourage you into it and will bring you into it. So yeah, look at it's all systems go like and keep at it.
Tommy, did you go for any of the grants? There's some
I
very
did, I
attractive
did,
TAMS
yes,
grants.
yeah,
Good
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Brilliant. What did you go
Certainly did.
for?
We went for the Einbuch Buck Weeder last year.
Okay.
Albeit the purpose I got it for, like there in the group, there's a great group there. Like we had great discussion on it.
Fab.
We even and the crop walk coming up now within our own farm. We gave Martin a couple of headaches because we got out, we put it on intensive method and we 50-60% destroyed the crop. But like I'm farming with my brother and my son Tom as well. And they said, sure, it's for trial purposes. Like, so, it's a learning curve. And I have problems on the conventional side with chickweed. So in my head, I was trying to apply this on both sides to see if it could work. Like it's definitely. Albeit it's all what your grandfather did years ago, you're bringing it all back into practice. So like it'll be interesting going forward. Yeah, I did. I bought that and I bought a couple of other bits and pieces for the farm, like in general. I
Yes, very
suppose you see.
attractive, isn't it, as well, as part of the, yeah. Martin, I want to go back to the oats, okay? 60% of the country or 60% of the organics, the tillage is oats. Why is that? Why is oats so popular?
Well, I suppose first of all, it comes down to markets, Deirdre. So back a number of years ago, Flahavans, maybe back 6 or 7 years ago, Flahavans started to build up their organic oat market, and they put out a feeler to get contracts from farmers, and they very quickly, within about 3 years, filled those contracts. And so I suppose there was no problem persuading farmers to grow oats when there was good money in it and a very healthy premium for the farmer, or to grow a crop so that, and I suppose you could grow a big tonnage. And it was a little bit like the conventional farmer selling directly into the merchant. It was lovely that you could just deliver straight from the field a trailer into Flahavans, and be guaranteed as well, supposed to be paid, and it paid a good premium as well, and the profitability of it stacked up. So that would be one reason why the oats is, I suppose, the biggest crop, because most of that oats is going to the Flahavans market, to the food market. We also have whites as well in Armagh, and they are in the same market, and so there'd be some growers growing for them. But there would also be oats grown for the organic animal feed market. So market is the first thing, but the second thing I suppose I would say about oats is it's an extremely resilient crop, very very good crop to scavenge for nutrient in the soil. And if you grow an organic crop of spring oats side by side an organic crop of spring barley, and if you both
Mm,
left them there with virtually very little nutrient, I can guarantee you the organic oats will look a lot better after a few weeks. It has that inherent ability to be able to scavenge for nutrient and grow through adversity. So it's a hardy crop. It's also then, I suppose, we've mentioned maybe weed control. It might come up a bit later too, but that would have been a big fear of any farmer deciding to go organic, is how am I going to manage weeds? And one of the great things about oats is it's got a natural allelopathy characteristic. So effectively, it produces these kind of phenolic acids, they're called, from its roots. And those substances in the ground, then when they're excreted, the weeds don't tend to like it. And certain species of weeds certainly are very sensitive to it. Others not so sensitive, but in general, it does enough to suppress the weeds so that they're not actively growing. And actually, Tommy, a few minutes ago, mentioned how they got a little bit overzealous, I would say, with their weeder, with their mechanical weeder.
yeah.
When you get a new toy, you have to use it. But they did do significant, like they literally nearly uprooted the oats with this machine. But what was very interesting, but the oats did grow back about 70% of the oats. But what was very interesting was where the oats grew back, it seemed to affect its competitiveness against the weeds that were left there. And the weeds actually didn't seem to suffer from the allelopathic effect of the oats versus where they didn't go near the field at all with the machine. And so while there was lots of weeds where they left it to, we'll say, to Mother Nature and the crop to naturally do it, those weeds have subsequently gone yellow and died. The allelopathy has kicked in from the oats. And there's very, very little, Tommy will agree, it's
Yeah.
very, very clean. So there was actually, as look would turn out, there was no need for mechanical intervention in this case, you know. So that, I suppose, the oats is an amazing, unique crop in that regard. So that is possibly why there's a good 60% of it in oats, you know. Now, bear in mind that brings with other problems potentially is growing oats too often in the one field. And we have to be careful about our rotation. And there could be the buildup of a virus, oat mosaic virus, in the ground if we were to continually grow oats in the same field. Um, Generally speaking, spring oats doesn't get it, but if you have spring oat volunteers then after the harvest growing that autumn in the ground before the next crop of spring oats, well, that's effectively like having a winter oat in the ground, and that's a host for that virus. So I would say we need maybe more diversity in the organic cropping rotations, and farmers are the organic farmers are well aware of this, and they are, in fairness, trying to rotate other crops, and it's
And
something
do Flav, so,
Tommy's doing it very well, you know.
brilliant. Martin, do the farmers have a contract then with Flavins? Or
Yes.
is that what
So
available? And they have the facilities to mill it?
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So they
there's
have
no difference in where they're milling, the organic versus the conventional.
no, they
No,
have
no.
basically they have a part of the operation and there is fully dedicated to the organic, to the intake
Oh,
of the organic
fantastic.
mill
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then separate for the conventional. And
Okay.
they took in about they have the capacity at the moment to take in over 10,000 tons. They originally wanted 9.5 or 10,000 tons. That tonnage slipped a bit in the last years, but now they're after getting more contracts filled this year. Because you've got to remember too, there was in 2020, the end of 22, when the organic farming scheme opened, there was nearly a doubling overnight of the amount of organic farmers in the country. It went from 2,000 to
Mm.
4,000. And then another 1,000 came in the following year. And then there before Christmas again, another 700. So we've gone from literally 2,000 to another 3,700 on top of that. So we're somewhere around 6 or 5,700 farmers. And even though not a huge proportion of them are organic tillage farmers, there still is a good shake of them coming in, and they're all very interested, and the ones who came in over 2 years ago now are now full symbol. After 2 years, you become full symbol. So Tommy is one of those. And I've a good, there's a good cohort of farmers there in that bunch, and they're all now after being offered contracts this year to grow oats because the market is expanding. And I think Flahavans could certainly, over the next few years, grow that business to 15 or 16,000 tons. So they're very actively pursuing farmers that could grow for them. And I think, if I'm right, the recent information, I think they have about 60 new contracts already gone out this year. So they had about 140 or 50 growers growing for them. So I think they'll certainly reach, they're heading in the direction of the tonnage where they want to get, but they still need more. So it's great to have that opportunity. There's terrific
Yeah,
opportunities at the moment for organic tillage farmers to grow
yeah.
more oats.
Brilliant to know.
Tommy,
Yeah.
what's in your fields right at the moment?
On the three plots that went in originally that are full symbol this year, we have oats in three quarters of it for on contract for Flavins, and then the rest is for the Valpo, the project that Martin and Sheila have pea, beans, and trial plots. They're
Yeah.
ongoing there.
Yeah, Sheila Alves in Oak Park have the Valpro Path project where they're looking at to see can they grow more peas in particular for human consumption to go into pastas and breads, and they're intercropping peas with beans. And Tommy, they wanted to bring that trial work out to farms, so Tommy is one of the participating farms to try this out,
Yeah.
and then you have
Alternative
the
protein source.
We
Yeah.
have the pea barley mix then as well, a pea barley mix on year two conversion on another part. And on the other farm then that we run also, it's first year. So it's the first year, it's a winter wheat crop.
Yeah.
So that's coming in 3 years' time or
Are you
It's
whole
been
cropping
introduced.
the pea and the barley, is it?
Well, no, we followed we last year the pea barley last year and this year we're following it through to harvest. So we are, and we have a farmer that's going to purchase it off us. He's going to treat it, and look at it's last year we brought it through to harvest and we harvested and it worked out very well. We had a good pea content in the mix and a good protein in it, and it was a nice. We had lads in to look at it, and through the group, like through the canvassing of it, the farmers came and looked at it. A group of farmers in the West came and looked at it, and they were very interested in it. So we have an agreement to grow a bit of stuff for some of the lads now this year again going forward.
And what about and the spring crops you've in? Do you put catch crops in, or what do you do in the wintertime with them?
Well, our intention with the last 2 years with the harvest being so late, the catch crops didn't take off very well. But
Yeah.
we put in multi-species grass on one plot, and we grazed that for the last 2 years with the sheep, and it was exceptional. Like it was just I couldn't get over the amount of value we got from the sheep end, and we actually cut a field of hay off it, and we fed that hay back out then to the sheep over the winter. That field has since been ploughed back down, and it's feeding like that is feeding the oats now at the moment. Looking very well. So yeah,
Yeah.
look at it's rotation again.
And isn't it? It's kind of going full circle a bit, like back to what our fathers would have done, or grandfathers. Crop rotation was a big thing, and did we fall away from
Certainly.
it maybe in recent years from in conventional
Yeah.
tillage maybe?
Yeah, certainly, Carl. Yeah, that's definitely it's good old fashioned rotation, like, and
Yeah,
yeah, we did fall away from it. We did get too reliant on other methods of doing farming, but it's coming back to that, like, and I suppose as Martin already said about the oats and the way they can shield off the weeds. Now certainly I do have weeds on the farm, and we do have resistant wild oats, and I was afraid of that problem showing its head, but like it hasn't yet. I'm sure it probably will going forward, but it seems to be working at the moment anyway.
is that your biggest weed concern? Are you getting any docks, or are you getting any of that kind of stuff that you're worried about, or is it?
No, at the moment, Cathal, no, we're not getting docks.
Yeah,
We were actually, that's why I bought originally the 4th of May last year, bought that Einbrook, because
yeah,
I saw an awful lot of weeds in the pea barley mix, and I
okay,
was getting a little bit alarmed with it. There was all different types of weeds in it. There wasn't one predominant weed,
yeah.
and that's why I pushed and got it. But I also then tried it on the oats as well, and definitely the oats left alone seem to be able to shield off the weeds, and that allelopathic effect is having a big effect on the weeds.
So it's just a matter of trusting the oats to do their job, and
Yeah,
just going back and the Einbach, because I'm like all farmers, we like machines to be able to do stuff and be able to fix stuff quickly, because you have to trust the process with the oats to do the job, and that sometimes like it's hard to do that. Can you tell me what you learned from the Einbach? Is it useful for what you're doing, or is it what could other farmers learn maybe from things that went wrong with you?
yeah. Look at it was certainly a big learning curve, and probably I didn't have the trust in the oats to let the oats do what they're designed to do. As a fellow farmer said, you don't use the weed harrow in the oats unless you have a particular weed that's a problem. And we did in the pea barley mix use it last year. We didn't use it this year at all yet, but I'm sure going forward there will be an opening somewhere if we need it. Like it's not how would you say? It's a learning curve, Cathal, and
Yeah.
that's it's typical of any farm, and conventional or organic. It's you're trying to better the ways of handling the weed or the problem you have.
So there is a place for that weeder on the farm. It's just being a bit more strategic with it, I suppose, what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you have it. Tune in next time to hear more interesting chats and discussion.
Myself and Deirdre will be back in 2 weeks' time, but do give us a review on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to the Environment to Edge podcast.